At this busy loading zone, workers try to move a top-heavy industrial unit out of a box truck. But it didn't go as planned. Use proper unloading equipment when handling heavy, unpalletized machinery from an elevated transport vehicle. On this factory floor, a worker guides a suspended load onto a conveyor. The moment the tension releases, the heavy hook assembly changes position unexpectedly. Stay alert around unsecured rigging and keep clear of the restricted area of a crane hook after a load has been landed. The moment tension comes off the line, lifting arms, chains, and hooks can move in unexpected ways. Riggers and ground personnel should clear the restricted area as soon as the load is secured and continue watching the crane until all gear is safely raised or stabilized. Head protection should always be mandatory, but PPE alone is not enough. An operator moves a heavy load with a compact wheel loader. The weight suddenly overwhelms the machine's balance. Respect the safe operating capacity of heavy equipment and treat balance as a critical part of every lift. A wheel loader, skid steer, or similar machine depends on its center of gravity remaining within safe limits. Once a load shifts that balance too far forward, the machine can become unstable very quickly. Operators must know the weight of the material they are lifting and compare it to the machine's rated limits before moving it. Buckets and forks should remain low during travel to improve stability. In this apartment courtyard, a pedestrian walks below as workers lower a heavy sofa from the second floor. In an instant, the furniture comes down directly into the space below. Keep public walkways clear whenever furniture, construction materials, or bulky debris are being removed from an upper level. A heavy object does not need to fall far to create major safety consequences. Once it is dropped into an uncontrolled space, anyone nearby is exposed to a serious safety hazard. Maintenance crews and property managers should use stairs, freight elevators, or properly secured hoisting methods when removing large items. If materials absolutely must be lowered from above, the area below must be barricaded and actively monitored. On this recycling floor, a worker climbs into the open chamber of an industrial baler to adjust material. Seconds later, the machine begins its next operating cycle. Apply full lockout tagout procedures before entering any industrial baler, compactor, or automated hydraulic press. These machines are designed to cycle with very high operating force and without stopping for anyone inside them. Entering while the system is still energized creates an immediate critical safety hazard. Facilities must enforce a strict no-entry rule wherever possible and provide tools that allow jams to be cleared from outside the machine. If entry is unavoidable, every energy source must be isolated, locked out, tagged, and physically verified before anyone crosses the threshold. At this masonry site, a worker stands on a makeshift scaffold while a coworker climbs onto the frame. The extra movement suddenly makes the whole structure unstable. Work only from properly built and anchored scaffolding, and keep temporary support frames clear of additional climbing while someone is already positioned above. Improvised platforms may seem functional for a moment, but they lack the stability needed to safely support shifting weight and movement. Supervisors should require engineered scaffolding that is level, braced, and anchored before elevated work begins. Workers should access platforms only through designated points, not by climbing the structure itself. The problem with unstable scaffolding is that it often appears safe right up until the moment it loses support. On this factory floor, 3 workers stand close as a heavy die is moved by an overhead crane. Then the rigging slips and the heavy block shifts sideways without warning. Establish a clear, restricted area around unsecured heavy loads and keep workers out from between a suspended object and a fixed surface. Loads can shift, lifting points can fail, and rigging can slip during the earliest stage of a lift. Rigging crews should set a clear exclusion zone and use tag lines to guide materials from a safe distance. All attachments, chains, and balance points must be checked before the load fully clears the ground. Inside this warehouse, a worker sorts packages beside a conveyor belt. Then a reversing truck suddenly backs into the loading area behind him. Face active loading traffic and require a designated spotter whenever a truck reverses into a blind workspace. Large commercial vehicles have blind spots that can completely hide a person from view. Loading zones should have strict pedestrian boundaries, and truck movement should be guided by trained spotters who remain visible to the driver at all times. Workers on foot must maintain constant situational awareness and avoid standing between vehicles and fixed structures. Mirrors and backup alarms are not enough on their own. On this roadside, a crew uses a truck-mounted crane to raise a concrete utility pole. As the pole swings up, the boom moves too close to overhead power lines. Maintain the required clearance distance whenever crane booms. Aerial lifts or conductive rigging are used near energized overhead power lines. Direct contact is not even necessary for a serious electrical hazard. Electricity can bridge a gap when equipment gets too close. Before any lift begins, operators and supervisors should perform a full site survey and identify all overhead electrical hazards. Every line should be treated as energized until the utility confirms otherwise. A dedicated spotter should be assigned to monitor distance because the equipment operator cannot safely manage every hazard alone. On this rooftop, a crew cuts a massive tree branch while one worker stands below with a guide rope. The moment the timber separates, it moves downward unpredictably. Keep everyone outside the immediate drop zone during active tree felling or branch cutting operations. Tree limbs rarely fall in a clean, predictable path. They can twist, rebound, or swing as the cut completes, turning a routine yard or site work into a major struck-by hazard. Tree crews should establish a wide exclusion zone and keep all ground personnel outside the maximum reach of the limb or trunk being cut. Large sections should be rigged and lowered in a controlled manner using tension lines and secure anchor points. Inside this tuning shop, mechanics push a modified car to the limit on a dynamometer. Then the engine suddenly suffers a major equipment failure. Verify engine condition and complete proper inspection before pushing any aging or untested engine to extreme high RPM loads. Under dyno conditions or other controlled high-stress testing, worn internal parts can fail suddenly, causing components or fluids to unexpectedly escape. Technicians should inspect engine integrity, confirm safe fluid pressures, and review tuning parameters before any maximum load test, especially on older vehicles. Protective barriers should separate the operator and observers from the engine bay and spinning components. Past performance on the road does not guarantee safety under artificial maximum load. At this compound entrance, a worker struggles to force open a stuck sliding steel gate. Then the overhead guide rail suddenly shifts out of place above him. Treat a jammed, heavy sliding gate as a structural warning sign and inspect the overhead guide rail and support system before applying force. If a gate is binding, jumping its track, or resisting normal movement, that often signals structural damage rather than a simple obstruction. Facility. Managers should inspect guide rollers, rails, brackets, and weld points regularly for corrosion, misalignment, or fatigue. Workers should report stuck or unstable gates immediately and keep clear until the problem is evaluated. Using force on a compromised gate can pull weakened supports loose and cause a larger support system failure.